Womanjeka everyone, Womanjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Mooloolah Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil the wedge-tailed eagle is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Woman Jika, everyone. Woman Jika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne, and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people. And in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past, present, future, and any elders that were here today. And I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks, and the Wandans. And I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Wathaurong and Dja Dja Wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover. Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Mooloolik Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, They would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragadah, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
We have lots of council services that support our community. We support families with children, including health services for children and mums, vaccinations, playgroups, childcare, and kinder. We support young people in our community. Through events and activities, we have services that can support people with disability, older people, and carers and family of people with disability and older people. Our libraries support everyone in our community, help people learn new things, and are free to join. We support our community to have fun and be active through events and activities, sport, and recreation areas. We help look after our places and spaces, the environment, and local businesses. We have laws to keep people safe, to make sure buildings are safe, to make sure roads and footpaths are safe, to make sure our places and spaces are safe. We make sure everyone follows the law to keep our community safe and happy. Moonee Valley. It's a great place to live, work, and visit.
Wominjeka everyone, Wominjeka meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of 3 families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandins, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The 3 families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin
Welcome everyone to the Council meeting on the 28th of April 2026, which I now declare open at 6:32pm. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public who've joined us tonight online. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting will also be available on our website. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which Moonee Valley is located, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay respects to their spirits, ancestors, community members, elders past, present and emerging. We also extend this respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. As part of our Council's commitment to reconciliation and treaty, I'll now say our acknowledgement to country in Woi-wurrung language. Wangananu nagu Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung gulan nagaran tuan bik wenawap Moonee Valley Dauri. Wangananu gaguk nangit bambuthba yalambu. Nangit nagu nagayan tabuk gaguk nangit ba nagwaran yuong gulan magali yalambu. We now move to item 2 on the agenda, apologies and leave of absence. Now, I don't believe there are any apologies for this evening, but Councillor Theocharides is just trying to join us online, so we'll hope that she can join us soon. Are there any leave of absence requests this evening? No? That brings us to the confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes from the Council meeting held on Tuesday the 24th of March 2026 be confirmed? That's Councillor Sypek moved, Councillor Phil Byrne seconded. Councillor Sypek, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, Councillor Theocharides has also joined us, and that's carried unanimously. Thanks, everyone. The next item on the agenda is a foreshadowing of conflicts of interest. Does any councillor wish to flag a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda this evening? I think I might be the only one flagging a conflict of interest. I have a material conflict of interest in item 9.2 on tonight's agenda, which is resolving councillor conflict of interest items prior to consideration of the draft budget 26-27. Councillor Isa. The next item on the agenda is presentations. Now, I think we have a number of presentations this evening, and I'm going to start by acknowledging that since our last meeting, acknowledge and thank long-standing state member for Essendon, Danny Pearson, who announced his resignation and that he won't contest the next election in November. As Minister for Economic Growth and Jobs, Minister for Finance and Minister for Government Services, Danny made a significant contribution to our state and has been a prominent voice for Victoria's jobs and economic growth. And our community will miss his familiar face around Moonee Valley. So on behalf of the City of Moonee Valley, we thank Danny for his efforts as the member for Essendon and wish him and his wife, former councillor Nicole Marshall, and their family all the best for their next chapter. I would also like to acknowledge that last Saturday, the 18th of April, there was the 18th of April, which was 2 weekends ago, there was a very tragic incident outside Supernova, so that occurred in Langs Road. It's on the boundary of City of Moonee Valley and City of Melbourne. And it was a very sad incident that I know affected many community members in the area and certainly affected those who had attended the Supernova event. Particularly would like to thank the emergency services from our locality, particularly police and paramedics and the SES who attended so promptly and assisted members of the public and those injured, and just thank the organisers of Supernova as well for the sensitivity with which they also managed that very tragic incident. I'd also like to acknowledge that last Saturday was the 25th of April, which is Anzac Day, and that there were a number of commemorations around the city of Moonee Valley. We held our council service on the 19th of April, on the Sunday prior to Anzac Day, and thank all of the members of the public and veterans who joined us for that day, and particularly would like to thank the schools that provided some beautiful artwork, some of which is still in the council chamber. So thank you to Buckley Park College, Debney Meadows Primary School, Lowther Hall Anglican Grammar School, St Mary's Primary School, St Peter's Primary School, Strathmore Secondary College for their beautiful contributions to Anzac Day, and would like to thank the RSLs around Moonee Valley for the holding dawn services. We had the Keilor East RSL with their very popular dawn service in Hoffmans Road, and many councillors attended that service. Essendon RSL held for the second time a service at Windy Hill that was very well attended, and of course the Flemington and Kensington RSL held their service. That's the service that I always attend at Racecourse Road on Saturday as well. So thank you to all the members of the public who joined with veterans for those important commemorations. Now ask if any other councillor has any presentations that they would like to share. Councillor Samantha Byrne, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to talk about the Clock Tower Centre highlights. So April was a vibrant month at the Clock Tower Centre, Moonee Ponds, showcasing a strong program of contemporary performance, community participation and professional development. A major highlight was Of the Land on Which We Meet, presented by Na Jinang Circus on the 17th and 18th of April. This First Nations-led contemporary circus work explored relationships to country through acrobatics, movement, dance and theatre, and was supported by participatory circus workshops for children and young people held at the Clock Tower across both days. Then there was also the Artists Accelerate professional development program, with workshops held at the Clock Tower Centre to support local artists in building sustainable creative practice. Sessions focused on skills such as funding, preparation and professional development, reinforcing the Clock Tower's role as both a performance and creative learning hub. The Clock Tower's morning music series also featured I with Lady Be Good, led by jazz vocalist Nina Ferro. The performance formed part of the Clock Tower Centre's long-running daytime music program designed for accessible and relaxed concert experiences. Alongside performances, April saw ongoing engagement activity connected to the Clock Tower Mural Public Art Project, with expressions of interest open throughout the month, inviting artists to contribute a new permanent public artwork for the exterior of the building, informed by earlier community consultation. Together, these activities reinforce the Clock Tower Centre's role as a key cultural venue for Moonee Valley, supporting First Nations storytelling, artist development, accessible arts participation and community-led creative initiatives. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would any other councillor like to make a presentation this evening? Thank you, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a presentation about our school holiday programs. During the autumn school holidays from the 3rd to the 19th of April, Moonee Valley City Council delivered a broad range of programs of school holiday activities designed to support children, young people and families across the municipality. Programs were delivered across multiple council venues, including libraries, youth facilities, outdoor spaces and cultural venues, and catered to a wide range of ages and interests. The key activities included live and participatory arts experiences, skills-based programs for young people, and free or low-cost recreational activities. Highlights included the box show at the Clock Tower Centre, circus workshops presented in conjunction with Narjinang Circus, a barista training course for young people aged 17 to 25 at Valley Youth Space, and free yoga-based activities for young people delivered in outdoor park settings. Valley Youth also launched their Y2K Rewind dance party event on digital platforms. The event, designed for young people aged 12 to 25, will continue to be promoted in the coming weeks, including direct outreach to schools, paid advertising, and a collection of print and digital materials will be distributed. There was also the Nature Play Week, which kicked off Australia-wide from Saturday the 11th of April and ran until Wednesday the 22nd of April, and that consisted of 3 small events run by Eco Explorers in Flemington, Essendon and Avondale Heights to promote nature play. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to make a presentation? Councillor John Sypek.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Hamish and Councillor Samantha Byrne and I attended Bruce Cameron's funeral on the 16th of April. Just to give you a quick history, Bruce was a former commissioner of the City of Moonee Valley. He was also Citizen of the Year, and it was quite a well-packed funeral procession, and he was a very good man. He was a lot of very community-focused, community-orientated. He started Holloway Aged Care Facility. He was one of the founding members, was just one of his big ticket items. Probus, Rotary, he was he was a nice bloke, and he'll be sadly missed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sypek. Would any other councillor like to make a presentation? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to talk about the community-led World Cafe series. The World Cafe series is a community-led monthly cultural program celebrating the diverse communities of Moonee Valley through food, music, dance and storytelling. The series formally returned in 2026 following a successful pilot in 2025 and is delivered as free events promoted locally through council channels. Each World Cafe event is developed and hosted in partnership with local cultural groups, with 2026 sessions including how Ramadan and Eid are celebrated in Sudan, Oromo and Ethiopian culture, and Eritrean Independence Day, providing opportunities for cultural exchange and community connection. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. Are there any other presentations this evening? Councillor Fran Cosgriff.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on the events at the Incinerator Art Gallery throughout April. A major milestone this month was 3 exhibitions that we had open on the 17th of April. They were We, Us, Theirs, All by Muri artist Norton Fredericks, exhibit Alas Alasan by Naarm-based artist Leo Begas Ponomo, and exhibit Tending the Invasion by Angus Scott. And they're currently showing and open until the 13th of June. Each of them showcases experimental and socially engaged practices by artists connected to our local community. And again in April at the Incinerator Art Gallery, we had the return of Gallery Sketches, which is a public drawing session which invites participants of all skill levels to come along. There's an art educator there and they go throughout the gallery and sketch pieces together. It's a really wonderful activity and I encourage people to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgriff. Any other presentations from councillors? Thank you, in which case we'll move to item 6 on the agenda, which is petitions and joint letters. Councillors, are there any petitions or joint letters this evening? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. A change.org petition has been received from 146 signatories, approximately 72 from Moonee Valley, calling for improved mobility and transport options across Moonee Valley, including safer streets for walking and cycling, expanded and more frequent public transport services, and investment in infrastructure to improve safety, accessibility, sustainability and connectivity for residents. Petitioners advocate for measures such as additional bike lanes, traffic calming, improved pedestrian access and enhanced bus and tram services to reduce congestion, improve air quality and reduce our carbon footprint and support a more connected community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. In accordance with Governance Rule 62.5, I refer the petition to the CEO for consideration. Councillors, do we have any other petitions or joint letters? We now come to public question time, and I note that we have received 4 public questions this evening. The first 2 questions are from Amanda Odoardi, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Amanda, I will read her questions. The first question is, why was Essendon Royals Soccer Club unable to secure a suitable facility within Moonee Valley to host its senior women's home fixture against fellow Moonee Valley club Avondale Football Club, resulting in the match being relocated to Tarneet, 37 kilometres away and within Wyndham City Council precinct? Thank you, Amanda, and I'll refer to the CEO, Helen Swee, to respond.
Thank you, Amanda. Through the Mayor. The location of sports fields is based on traditional summer and winter sports seasons. However, it's acknowledged that some sporting codes may have alternative season dates which are accommodated where possible through an extended season allocation. Maintenance and closure periods may apply in line with works and seasonal requirements, which results in restricted usage during these times. In Moonee Valley, all but one of the soccer fields are shared with cricket, making access to soccer over the summer challenging. At the time in question, Essendon Royals had an extended season allocation at the J.H. Allen Reserve. However, the ground was offline at this time due to required proactive maintenance works being undertaken. As a result, the request was unfortunately unable to be accommodated. Officers worked with the club and Football Victoria to consider suitable alternative options. However, a ground to meet the governing body's requirements was unavailable on this day. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. I will now read Amanda's second question. What actions will Moonee Valley City Council take to ensure clubs supporting women's football pathways have equitable access to suitable local facilities so senior women's teams representing the municipality can host their home games within Moonee Valley? Thank you for that question, Amanda, and I'll refer to CEO Helen Swee to respond.
Thank you, Amanda. Through the Mayor. In 2024, Council endorsed the seasonal sport allocation policy, including principles which seek to progress and promote gender equality in community sport. Clubs must create access schedules for change rooms and grounds that provide a fair and safe environment on game and training days for all genders, including women and girls. If the members of any Moonee Valley sporting club have questions about what spaces are located and when, they are encouraged to contact the club's nominated council liaison. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. The next 2 questions are from Tommy Ledoux, who is not joining us this evening. So on behalf of Tommy, I'll read his questions. The first is, what is the expected additional tax per Moonee Valley household on top of existing waste charges for a purple bin in the 2027 to 28 financial year? And I'll respond to that question that the cost for the provision of the glass recycling bin, purple lid, is yet to be endorsed by Council and finalised in this year's budget. The cost range, pending an endorsed service model by Council, is variable and estimated to be between $15 to $30 per Moonee Valley household per annum in the 2027 to 28 financial year, depending on the service model that is yet to be determined and approved. And Tommy's second question is, has Moonee Valley City Council considered joining other Victorian councils in calling for the purple bin rollout to be scrapped? Thank you for the question. Council has not considered this, but Council has, at its December 2025 Council meeting, resolved to approve the implementation of a curbside glass bin service by 1st of July 2027 to comply with the Circular Economy, Waste Reduction and Recycling Act 2021, and note that a future report will be brought to Council in 2026 to endorse the specific glass service model. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports from delegates? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Metropolitan Transport Forum earlier this month. In addition to the usual advocacy and updates from councils, there was an excellent presentation by Professor Simon Kingham from the University of Canterbury in Christchurch in New Zealand. The presentation was titled Streets for People or Roads for Cars, How Low-Cost Changes Can Reap Big Benefits. This presentation was quite interesting in that it brought a more human element to how we think about streets, and that the streets that we and our residents live in, and also that the physical form and characteristics of the street have a very important relationship with human interactions and community ties. Some key takeaways are that livable and inviting streets increase community interactions. Walkable neighbourhoods increase chances of seeing people who also live locally, thus contributing to wellbeing and a sense of belonging. There's high levels of support for people-friendly streets, but almost always some resistance to change, highlighting the importance of good consultation, trials and post-implementation consultation, and that meaningful increase to cycling rates requires separation from fast-moving traffic, and despite constant dis and misinformation, bike lanes and other related infrastructure has a positive outcome for local economies. And I think I flicked that presentation around to colleagues a few days ago as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. Are there any other reports from delegates? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I sit on the Western Melbourne Tourism Board, and we had a meeting last week. It is really quite an interesting time for the board. We have a new strategic plan which is available online for anyone who wanted to have a look, and I think it's an exciting time for Melbourne's West and everything that is going on in the tourism space. So please check it out.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Any other reports from delegates? Councillor Fran Cosgriff.
Thank you. I'm a councillor member of the Farnham Street Neighbourhood Learning Centre Committee of Management, and the big news at Farnham Street at the moment is celebrating the retirement of long-standing centre manager Kathy Connop, who has just finished up 37 years at Farnham Street Neighbourhood House. It would be impossible to summarise all the things she's done in that time, but certainly throughout the retirement party, and there was a few weeks of farewells to Kathy, I'd say, from all of the users of the house. The theme that came through was her consistent warmth and grace and enthusiasm and selflessness that she's brought to Farnham Street over the last 37 years. So I'd like to extend my deep thanks to her for that contribution to the community. She was also our Citizen of the Year in 2023 in that role. And we're also welcoming new Centre Manager Liz Truss, who has big shoes to fill but is very excited to get going. So all the best to her and all the best to Kathy Connop. Thank you.
Indeed, and congratulations to Kathy Connop for 37 years of service to the community. Are there any further reports from delegates? In which case, that brings us to reports. And the first report this evening, item 9.1, is the endorsement of the draft annual plan 2026-27 for community consultation. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Hamish Jones. Thank you. Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Only briefly, just to state that the recommendation is that the draft annual plan be endorsed and released for community consultation from the 29th of April until the 27th of May. And as part of that, I would encourage the community to review and provide feedback on the initiatives proposed for financial year 26-27, and to ensure that things are consistent with and provide their views on priorities that align with council plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. Councillor Hamish Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, thank you, Mayor. As a council, we developed the council plan 2025 to 2029, and as part of that, each year we develop an annual plan that goes with that and again, as Councillor Byrne mentioned, we are putting this out for public feedback this evening. I wanted to focus on two initiatives and just mention them briefly that hadn't initially been planned for in the council plan but have been identified as important initiatives to be brought forward in this next annual plan. That's one related to strategy 4.2, which is to work towards the preventing gendered and family-based violence. That's a very important issue in our community, and I want to flag, and I think that's important that we have that initiative there, and I want to flag that for the community. And also on strategy 6.1, something dear to my heart, support for our small business community, bringing an initiative forward there so we can support our support economic growth throughout the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamish Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? In which case, I will put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, before we move to the next item, I wish to declare a material conflict of interest on item 9.2, which is resolving councillor conflict of interest items prior to consideration of the draft budget 2026-27. Councillor Isa, as I am the bank signatory for a not-for-profit organisation that hires out the clock tower, and the fees for the clock tower are part of our budget. So I will vacate the chair and call upon Deputy Mayor Councillor Byrne to take the chair for this next item. Thanks.
Councillors, the next report item is 9.2, resolving councillor conflict of interest items prior to consideration of the draft budget 2026-2027. Councillor Isa. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. I will move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you. The Mayor has declared a material conflict of interest on the fees and charges relating to the use of the clock tower in relation to the draft budget, and this motion resolves to approve the fees and charges scheduled for the Clock Tower Centre for the 26-27 year, so that Mayor Isa can participate in the decision-making process to adopt the draft budget for the financial year 26-27 in accordance with the Local Government Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Cosgrove, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? Okay, thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion is carried unanimously. With this item concluded, I now invite the Mayor to return to the chamber as Chair. I can track it down.
Thank you, Councillor Filburn. So that brings us to item 9.3, which is the endorsement of the draft budget 2026-27 for community consultation. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Filburn.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the officer's recommendation, and that is that Council resolves to endorse the draft budget 26-27 brackets attachment 1 for community consultation from 30th of April 2026 to the 27th of May 2026 with the following amendments subject to the consultation process. Paragraph A, remove $210,000 from the Clifton Park car park project for the 2026-27 draft budget, brackets, with the remaining $290,000 to deliver the play space, and note the delivery of the remainder of the master plan implementation will be removed from year 2 of the 4-year capital works program at the finalisation of the budget and 4-year capital works program, hyphen, with the project potentially to be delivered in 2030-2031. Paragraph B, noting Council cannot meet the many competing demands from sporting clubs, the confirmed expiration in June 2026 of the $650,000 state government grant towards this project, and submission 33 to the draft 4-year capital works program in support of this project include $2,100,000 from the Pavilion Reserve and the Infrastructure Reserve for the construction of the Airport West Tennis Club Pavilion over 2026-27 and 2027-28, and adjust the advocacy strategy as necessary. Paragraph C, noting advice that $120,000 is required for due diligence and detailed design, and that construction is subject to cost estimates following detailed design, include $230,000 for design and construction of an informal pathway and park amenities at Montgomery Park, brackets per submission 28. Paragraph D, given the importance of emergency services to the community and difficulties experienced by the Essendon SES as detailed in submission 47 to the draft 4-year capital works program, include $50,000 for the design of the car park near the SES building in Aberfeldy, noting that construction costs are not currently included in the 4-year capital works program. Paragraph E, include $88,000 for fencing at Bowes Avenue Reserve and Hansel Etzel Reserve. Paragraph F, include $80,000 for ball protection fencing at Hanson Reserve, while noting the best outcome may be to align the fencing with the Hanson Reserve sports field upgrade, which is scheduled to occur in 2027-28. Paragraph G, include $70,000 for ball protection fencing at Canning Reserve, while noting the best outcome may be to align the fencing with the Canning Street sports field upgrade is scheduled to occur in 2029-2030. Paragraph H, include $120,000 for design work for design or works to improve Cliff Allison Reserve (brackets) as this project was not actioned in the 2025-26 and per submission 51. Paragraph I, include $150,000 for the continuation of the graffiti removal program in retail areas and areas of high visibility. Paragraph J, include $199,000 to extend the staffed opening hours at Ascot Vale Library from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 3 nights per weekday, and from 10 to 1 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 10 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, noting that despite recent rebuilding, Ascot Vale Library is currently only open for 39 hours per week, with Moonee Valley's other libraries opened between 53 and 67 hours per week, and that a 12-month trial is to be completed on non-staffed access, and that future service reviews and consultation following the trial will enable Council to consider consistency of library hours across the municipality. Paragraph K, maintain pensioner and concession dog and cat registration and renewal at $0. Paragraph I, reduce fees for green waste, bootload and green waste station wagon, respectively, for residents to $0. Paragraph M, increase fee for unauthorised damage to or removal of, brackets, replacement fee. Sorry, I'll start that again, Mayor and Governance. Paragraph M, increase fee for unauthorised damage to or removal of street tree, brackets, replacement fee, to $3,000. Paragraph N, increase fee for vehicle crossing permit, brackets, initial application to $1,000, and increase fee for vehicle crossing permit, brackets, additional crossing at same site, to $1,000. Paragraph O, include a new retrieve and redaction of endorsed plans fees for pensioners and concession card holders of $75. Paragraph P, freeze street party fees at 2025-26 rates. And paragraph Q, reduce the planning and feasibility study to $100,000, noting the projects for which this funding is required have not been articulated to date. Paragraph 2, note that investigation into the footpath in Filson Street can be accommodated in the operational budget in 2026-27, brackets, per submission 2. Paragraph 3, note the cost of the playground component of the upgrade of FJ Davies Reserve, and that Council will consider the funding for this project at the finalisation of the budget and 4-year capital works program in June. Paragraph 4, make publicly available the results of any recent consultation with Boeing Reserve Community Hub stakeholders, noting that funding for detailed design work for the Community Hub has been put on hold, brackets, as per the Capital Works Performance Report March 2026, Council Motion 2026/19, pending the outcome of the advocacy work to source funding for construction and the future decision of Council, given that there is currently no funding allocated for construction in the draft 4-year capital works program, brackets, per submission 29. Paragraph 5 requests the Chief Executive Officer provide the following information to inform decision making on the final budget 2026-27 and 4-year capital works program. Paragraph A, further clarifications of inclusions for the Boeing Reserve play space upgrade after receiving external funding from the successful Victorian Government Local Sport Infrastructure Fund application. Paragraph B, assessments of the feasibility and options for delivering safe and publicly accessible walk-up multi-purpose courts at Boeing Reserve within the allocated budget, brackets per submission 22. Paragraph C, ways in which Council can respond to any future impacts to the community and Council operations from increases in fuel costs, including the promotion and infrastructure for active transport and electrification. Paragraph D, planned projects to be funded through the feasibility and planning funding. Paragraph E, the identification of specific active transport projects from the draft integrated transport plan and associated works, and any local area management plans, brackets approved or in development, which can be implemented in financial year 2026-27. Paragraph F, officer feedback and costings for half basketball courts at Bradshaw Street Reserve and LT Thompson Reserve. Paragraph G, further advice on Council's asset renewal ratio across the next 2 years to ensure Council is meeting VAGO's recommended minimum amount for renewal and upgrade capital works. Paragraph 6, invite submissions in accordance with Council's community engagement policy as required by Section 96 of the Local Government Act 2020, noting that submissions to the draft 4-year capital works program continue to be considered and submitters are not required to resubmit any submissions made to Council in February 2026. And paragraphs 7 to 10 as read. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Philburn. I'm just going to check a couple of small, thank you for reading such a long motion, just a couple of small things to check. I think in paragraph 1D, did you intend to say, because the word draft in the very last line wasn't said, so not currently included in the draft 4-year capital works program? Was it your intention to read the word draft in 1D?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it was.
The grammar of 1G, perhaps if we could just remove remove the word is in that. Best outcome may be to align the fencing with Canning Street upgrade scheduled. So just the word is there might need to be removed just to make grammatical sense. In 1J, just clarifying 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
On Saturday, that's correct, yep.
And just clarifying that after K you read I, but it's actually L, just a small L, point L rather than point 1. And just clarifying in 1Q, I think I heard reduce the planning and feasibility study. Did you intend to say reduce the planning and feasibility funding?
Yes, I did.
Can I just ask councillors whether there are any other queries, or anyone from any officers whether there are any other queries with respect to the motion? In 6.6, Councillor Philburn, there's draft 4-year capital works program, just clarifying that the word program was inserted there.
Yes, there should be a program there. 4-year capital works program continue to be considered.
And in 5E, sorry, I had just one more. In 5E, Can we just clarify? Councillor Phil Byrne said the associated works and the S isn't up there. Thanks. I did just note that there were a couple of capitalisations that were needed, but were there any other queries? Any other queries from officers? Oh, and just to clarify, Councillor Phil Byrne, I think you may have referred to this as an amendment at the beginning. Can you clarify that you meant it was an alternative motion?
I can. Alternative, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone? Thanks for reading that very long motion, Councillor Phil Byrne. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Fran Cosgrove, thank you. Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge the work of officers across the organisation in the preparation of the budget and with the follow-up of many inquiries from councillors, and also the efforts of fellow councillors in the search for common ground on this important item. The alternative motion seeks to build on the good work of officers who have prepared a draft budget in accordance with the principles of sound financial management. Given the time, I'll only cover a few points in the alternative motion, and others may wish to discuss other points, noting that all of these are subject to community consultation before being finalised in June. With regards to fees and charges, the amendment seeks to keep pensioner and concession dog and cat registrations and renewals to zero, keep fees for residents for green waste, for bootloads and station wagons at zero at the transfer stations, freeze street party fees at 25-26 levels, and also introduce a pensioner and concession rate for the provision of endorsed planning permit plans, noting obviously the cost to pensions and residents, and also just the alignment with council plan objectives around green waste in particular. Also, to reflect the importance of increasing urban canopy and the challenges of maintaining and enhancing tree canopy, and the health risks of not having an extensive tree canopy, a significant increase is proposed in the fee for unauthorised damage to or removal of a street tree. To reflect administration of applications, technical expertise and officers' efforts, as well as the permanent loss of on-street parking, land available for street trees and permeable surfaces, the fees for new vehicle crossings and additional crossings are proposed to increase respectively. For every $1 that we spend on our libraries, the community gets $6 back, and the $199,000 proposed for an increase in the staffed hours at Ascot Vale Library to close at 8 p.m 3 nights a week and to 4 p.m on Saturday better utilise this brand new multi-million-dollar community asset and provide a safe place for our young people to study for exams, and the potential for others for book clubs after work and so on. This is a reasonably modest change, and it would bring the Ascot Vale Library from being open a total of 39 hours per week to 51 hours per week. Moonee Valley's other libraries are open a minimum of 53 hours, with Sam Merrifield being the exception, open to 67 hours per week. Importantly, future service reviews and consultation will enable Council to consider consistency of library hours across the municipality, but I think many of us here support our libraries and would agree that those hours are reasonable. The amendment also seeks to seeks the identification of specific active transport projects from the Integrated Transport Plan and associated works, as well as the local area management plans, which have recently been completed and are underway. And this is in no means to preempt or water down any good policy work or strategic planning that's being done. It's just a matter of scheduling to make sure that we can get meaningful improvements to active transport as soon as possible. That's all. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I've just realised, councillors, that my bell is not on the table, so I'll give you the 30-second warning as need be, just verbally, just saying 30 seconds. Thanks very much, Councillor Phil Byrne. Councillor Cosgriff, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to start by thanking officers for all the work that they've put into it, and to colleagues for this alternative motion for your input and feedback into putting forward this common ground, as my Councillor Phil Byrne called it. It's not a sexy alternative, but I hope what we're demonstrating to the community is just the amount of work that goes into the budget, how complicated the document is. It's 150 pages, the draft, how the kind of discussions and information that we're trying to have and filter through when we are working with such limited resources and we have so much to do in the community. Often what we do is put out the draft budget to the community, hear their feedback and submissions, and then also put in our kind of councillor initiated changes or things that we've been working with the community to achieve when we adopt the final budget. What this seeks to do is give that information to the community beforehand, so you know what we're striving to do, what we're thinking of changing. Officers obviously put together the budget based on our a range of parameters, and then we look over it and bring the community's voice as we're elected to. So I hope that in flagging this for the community, we're able to increase the transparency of this process. It's been a really big year in terms of finance and budgets at council. We've done our 4-year capital works program as well. I'm sure that all of the teams, because it includes all the teams across council, are just exhausted and sick of bringing budgets to us and answering our questions, but we really appreciate it. So that, along with the 150-page draft budget we're putting out for this year, we've also got the capital works budget, 4-year capital works budget that we'll adopt alongside it. All of the submissions that we've heard for that will of course be factored into our final decision on this as well. I won't speak to any of the individual items because I think we've tried to put in some rationale as well and get something that's not perfect for everyone but has, you know, a little bit of what everyone is trying to achieve in there, along with all the advice from our officers. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosgriff. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor John Sypek.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to the officers for putting in a good budget together. And we had a lot of submissions to this draft budget, and I'm just a little disappointed that we aren't able to accommodate not many of them. So I'm 50-50 on this, Madam Mayor. Mayor. I'm 50-50. I'm not too sure which way to go, but I will sit back and listen to my colleagues to see what they say. But I just want to mention a couple of good points in this draft budget. One that I've also been sort of in contact with as a multi-ward councillor was the Airport West Tennis Club. And it's been sitting percolating in the background there, and I know the hard work that Councillor Samantha Byrne has put into this application, and she was steadfast by this project all the time. So I congratulate her on getting it into the draft budget. There are other items. Look, I can talk about other items as well, but look, it is a draft budget. It is going out for consultation. I look forward to more submissions coming in from the public. Like I said, some of the wording I'm not very, very happy with, but it is a draft budget, and in June is when we have when we do pass the budget. So hopefully this might actually go north rather than south. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor John Sypek. Would any other councillor like to speak to the budget, speak to the motion?
Could I just ask a point of clarification? That the intention is submissions heard from the 4-year capital works program will still be considered as we adopt the final budget in June?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hamish Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I will speak briefly to the motion. The Local Government Act requires us to prepare a budget before June 30th each year, and we are presenting a proposed budget this month for community feedback to enable us to make that decision prior to June 30 and put the final budget together. There's a few things I wanted to touch on here that I think are important. I wanted to note the operating surplus of 14 million and thank officers for putting that towards proposed capital investments. I think that's great. I want to note that VAGO, the Victorian Auditor General's Office, has given us a low risk rating profile. I think it's excellent work by officers to make sure we fit into that, and a commitment to pay down debt is important to me as well. The proposed capital works program, as my colleague Councillor Sypek said, we receive a lot of submissions, and I do hope we receive a lot of more because it shows that the community is engaged and the community is participating in the project. It's not perfect and we can't achieve anything, but it's important for us to have all the feedback we can get from the community to make those final decisions. So please participate in that process as we develop this year's budget and the draft of the the subsequent 4 years that are included in that as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. I will, and I will be supporting this motion tonight. As Councillor Jones mentioned, we do need to put out a draft budget to hear from the community, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say, noting that we've already heard a lot of the projects from the 4-year capital works work that has already been undertaken. I will stick to talking primarily to what has been put forward through the alternative. First of all, I would like to thank yourself, Mayor, for putting this together. It's always hard to coordinate all of the councillors, and I think we somehow got there, so thank you. I'd like to make note of the $88,000 for fencing at Bowes Avenue Reserve and Hanson Etzel Reserve. This came through from a question from the public at a previous council meeting and is primarily due to safety concerns. That was 1E. 1F and 1G are also for safety concerns in regards to ball protection fencing at local sporting ovals, but we have received feedback that it might be better to align these with the sports field upgrade, so I am mindful that there will be further information and further discussions on those. And as Councillor Sypek mentioned before, obviously finding a way to work through the Airport Tennis Club Pavilion and what we're doing with that. That's been something, I believe, Councillor Sypek, it was your mayoral year in 2017. I think the work, there's been talks about it since then, and I note that Councillor Raza, you came out to the open day as well, and so it's something that I think as a council we know that we've got a state government grant and we really don't want to have to hand that money back. So improving our facilities for our community is incredibly important. I will, however, highlight some things that I have question marks over. As I mentioned, I will be supporting this draft budget, but I do have questions and concerns about removing the Clifton Park car park project and potentially delaying, so some money from the project and then potentially delaying it.
30 seconds, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I please ask for an extension, short extension? Thank you.
Yeah,
My concern in regards to this one is that it is a vibrant hub of everything down at Aberfeldy, where people walk from netball courts to the bowls greens to toilets to the football field, and it can be, as I've mentioned before, unsafe. So unfortunately, if we were to remove some of this funding, the accessibility will not be improved, and I think that it does need to be improved. However, I'm interested to hear what the community has to say on that. Point N, which is increasing the fee for the vehicle crossing permits. We want to, in this council, we want to encourage good quality developments, and this cost, I think, will be passed on to the buyer. Housing is already expensive, and if we're increasing vehicle crossing permits, the developer's not just going to absorb it, unfortunately. And the last one that I am just watching carefully is in regards to the Boeing Reserve Courts. My understanding from the previous community consultation was that there was very much a need, not for competition compliant courts, but at least training compliant courts to cater for multiple sports, and as opposed to just recreational courts. So I think we just have to see how we go with that. And I'm so mindful that I've got 4 seconds to go, so I'll finish there. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. So we're proposing to deliver an operating surplus of $14 million, which means that we've got a good parcel of money for our Capital Works program, and in addition to the ones that have been included in the motion on the floor, I just wanted to highlight some of the major projects that we're funding through Capital Works. So we're investing $1.6 million in the planting of street and park trees, renewing local roads and local area traffic management at around $5.36 million. We've got $1.35 million for the Walter Street Reserve Pavilion upgrade, $2.12 million for pedestrian and shared path improvements, $1.2 million for place-based renewal program, $6.5 million for the early years building blocks program, $2.7 million for our drainage improvement works, just under $1 million for the sports field renewal and upgrade works, $700,000 for sports field lighting program, and $3.83 million for building renewals and upgrades, as well as asset renewals in line with our asset management plan. Just on the submissions, again, I just wanted to highlight for our community that the submissions that we heard on the 19th of March are still valid, and so you don't need to resubmit those. But as others have mentioned, on the 11th of June, we have got another option for hearing of submissions, so encourage the community to submit those if they wish to do so. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Now there was some quasi-dissent, Councillor Phil Byrne, so we'll offer you a right of reply if you would like one.
Thanks, Mayor. Just just briefly, just a couple of points to respond to, knowing that there was general support for the amendment, but just to pick up on a couple of points that Councillor Samantha Byrne made around the vehicle crossings. Certainly agree that that is a cost that would be passed on to developers, but it's also a cost to council as well. There's 400 vehicle crossings which go in on average each year. Council's own policy states that vehicle crossings may cause the loss of at least one on-street car parking bay and effectively turns a public car space into a private space. So, and whilst a lot of the times this is completely unavoidable and they're required, so 400 car spaces lost each year, that's about the size of the secure car park over in Gladstone Street, which is about 400 spaces. And using conservative figures of about 7.5 square metres, that equates to about 6.5 netball courts of hard surfaces. So there is a public cost involved as that gets shifted for other areas where council needs to work harder. But I do appreciate that point that was made. In relation to the Clifton Car Park project, I don't think there'd be any sort of disagreement as to the need. Just also noting that the remaining 290
It's 30 seconds remaining.
is to deliver the play space. These are, I guess, some of the hard decisions, but noting that it's all subject to consultation, and I'm sure we'll be very interested to see what people come back with. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw your hand up there. I'm so sorry, Councillor Barnes. I'll just call again. All those in favour? That's Councillor Ava Adams, Councillor Phil Byrne, Councillor Samantha Byrne, Councillor Fran Cosgriff, Councillor Hamish Jones, Councillor John Sypek, Councillor Paula Theocrides and Councillor Isa. All those against? Councillor John Barnes, and I do apologise for that. Without calling an adjournment, I will just see... no, okay. There was just, something I wasn't sure whether I just needed to attend to. There is. Thank you. Just 1 second. Thank you. I also just want to thank officers for all of the hard work that goes into the budget, and that's officers not just at the executive level of council, but officers within the whole organisation who contribute and are responsible for the budget. It's great. All of your work is greatly appreciated. Brings us to item 9.4, which is the endorsement of the draft Ageing Well in Moonee Valley framework for community consultation. Just wait 1 moment. We now have the officer's recommendation on the screen. Do we have a motion? Councillor Adams.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hamish Jones. Thank you. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you. This motion is endorsing the draft Ageing Well in Moonee Valley framework for community consultation. The framework will support council to plan for and respond to the changing needs of older people and the individuals, communities and organisations that support them. People aged 50 years and over make up approximately 35% of the population of Moonee Valley, and over the next 10 years that number will increase substantially. So this piece of work is really, really important. To inform the framework, Council had a deliberative engagement process with Council's Community Advisory Panel that consisted of 43 residents from across Moonee Valley to reflect diverse demographics, life experiences and locations. The framework was also informed by conversations with council staff, local service providers, community organisations, funding agencies and other key stakeholders. The framework is underpinned by 3 themes: respect, belonging and support. And at the end of the 3 panel sessions, the Community Advisory Panel proposed 13 priorities that informed the development of the framework. And those were, I'll just quickly read those out. Preventative approach to dealing with isolation and loneliness, provide accessible, reliable and timely information, facilitate access and connection to trusted service providers and tradespeople, provide and maintain safe, well-lit, connected footpaths that support older people's mobility, ensure parks, sports grounds and leisure centres are welcoming and age-friendly, support alternative transport such as community transport, advocate for age-friendly and accessible transport initiatives, provide support and services for people with or moving to insecure housing, strengthen access to home and community care through information and navigation services, support safe pedestrian crossing environments, facilitate support for people who are nearing retirement, provide subsidised gardening services for older residents and people with disability, and improve access to health services. I just wanted to say thank you to all of our panel members for giving up so much time to contribute so valuably. Our community is now invited to provide feedback on our Your Say page throughout May, and we look forward to hearing what our community thinks. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Adams. Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I will just briefly. I think this framework obviously matters for our community because of the demographic reality where we are ageing as Victorians, we're all living longer, and also through improved health outcomes, living in the community as individuals for longer. So I think it's important that we make sure that Moonee Valley is a place where people can age well and not just a place where people grow old, although it was a little concerning to find out as part of this process how close I am to ageing, but that's a story for another day. I thought it was great how the framework has structured around the 3 themes of respect, belonging and support, and how these are mapped to the World Health Organisation's age-friendly city domains. I think that this shows that we're mapping this to best practices globally as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel and coming up with something of our own. We can then compare and benchmark to what other local communities are doing globally to make sure that we stay with best practices. I think I wanted to acknowledge the depth of consultation that has happened in coming up with this draft framework. As Councillor Adams mentioned, we had a community advisory panel of 43 residents of different demographics and different locations across the municipality. I think that gave us a wide cross-section of the community to be able to come up with the priorities that we've had over a number of sessions, and I wanted to thank them for their participation in the process and coming up with this framework that we present to the local community today. I think the priorities themselves speak directly to community building. So we're celebrating residents as they age, connecting them with opportunities in the community, preventing isolation and ensuring that they have access to health services and other information needed going forward. I also note and thank officers for ensuring that further community consultation, as we put this out for consultation, will be provided in a number of different formats to ensure that we can get further feedback before this is presented back to Council for final adoption. I support the draft and look forward to hearing the feedback we get from the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor John Barnes, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I love old people. I think they're the best. They're smart, they're intelligent, they're knowledgeable. If you don't like reading books, just go and talk to an elderly person. I'm hitting the bracket of 60 soon, so I feel at Hamish. But yeah, they're an amazing set of people, the elderly, and the more we can look after them and the better we can do for them. So I'm totally all over this, so I endorse it too. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barnes. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? There being no dissent, then we'll move to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Move to item 9.5, which is the adoption of the Advocacy Strategy 2026 to 29. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor. There are 3 levels of government in Australia. We are but one of them, and an important part of our work is advocating to other levels of government and stakeholders to ensure that we can get the best outcomes for our residents. And with the state election coming up in November, now is the right time for us to be developing and endorsing this strategy as we go forward. Before I get to talking about the current strategy, I think it's, or the proposed current strategy going forward, I think it's important to note the success of the previous strategy, including more than $1 million in COVID-19 recovery grants, funding for the Bowes Avenue netball courts, $1.9 million for road and pedestrian safety, $1.7 million for active transport, and commitments to deliver the Keilor Eastern Airport West Railway Station, just to name a few. Every dollar that we can get secured through advocacy to other stakeholders is a dollar that doesn't have to come from a rates notice that we're sending out to residents. The new strategy, as proposed, covers 3 categories: infrastructure, services and livability, and it has a... I think that the report shows that advocacy is responsive and adoptive, and this list is an important list and a priority list to start, but this could change over the coming years, and we need to be flexible in terms of going that forward. But in the run-up to November, I think it's important that we highlight the those that are in the document that we're putting out there and maintain discipline to that. Obviously, of particular interest to me is the Boeing Reserve Community Hub, and I hope that the state government does take that on board as we put this strategy out to all major parties and stakeholders. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thanks, Mayor. Just in addition to Councillor Jones' comments as well, just on the achievements from the advocacy report from 22 to 25, I just wanted to acknowledge that during this period, Council successfully secured 82 funding agreements, resulting in a whopping total of $39,398,170 worth of advocacy-aligned projects from state and federal governments, as well as external partners and organisations. I mean, this is an extraordinary achievement and is a real testament to the efforts of Council and the CEO. It really demonstrates the strength of Council's partnerships, the effectiveness of its advocacy efforts, and our shared commitment to building a fair, sustainable and well-connected Moonee Valley. And in addition to some of the highlights that Councillor Jones mentioned, we, in that period, achieved some funding for a headspace in Moonee Valley, many arts, music and youth grants for sporting facilities and play spaces, and who can forget the $20 million of building blocks partnership to build and redevelop 5 kindergartens and maternal and child health centres, as well as the Living Libraries grants and infrastructure program, which have been really, really valuable. So yes, thank you to our officers, previous councillors from the last term, something to celebrate. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Sure, I will. I will be supporting this motion, but I do so with a little bit of hesitancy, and it is mainly in regards to point 2, which is authorising officers to apply for grants and funding opportunities which align with the advocacy strategy 2026 to 2029. My concern for this, and we in a way discussed it when we were talking about the draft budget, is when we get a small amount of money for a project that is not in our longer term capital works planning, and it's not enough to cover the whole cost of a project. What we then do, sometimes we can get money and it's good and it's enough, and other times it's not, and it can be difficult. I don't necessarily have a better option on how to work through this, but if we're to get a very small amount of money, say $100,000 for a $8 million pavilion, it's difficult. My other concern is we've got some very big ticket items that I don't think they either haven't gone out for as much community consultation as I would have thought, or particularly council-led community consultation, and I think there is a very big risk, stakeholder management risk, if there are funding announcements made and then there is community backlash off the back of that. I'm not saying that it will happen, but I'm saying that if we're advocating for money without us doing council-led consultation, particularly when there are sensitive community interfaces, I would hate for us to get in awkward positions. But I understand that advocacy is a challenge and a juggle, and at the end of the day, I think our partners will probably fund what they like and what they've done their due diligence on as well. So I will be supporting this and looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I won't repeat a lot of the points that were made by Councillor Jones and Councillor Adams, but do sort of acknowledge the nuanced art form that a lot of this work is as well. Obviously, we don't have the funding and the resources to do everything that we'd like, nor are many things within our remit to do. But they, even if they're not, they're likely to align very closely with where our strategy is taking us. Advocacy requires a partner as well, and I just do want to acknowledge the work of previous and current state and federal members as well, and also sort of echo the points that you made with respect to Danny Pearson, who's been a huge advocate locally as well, and also upper house members as well, and we hope that continues well into the future. I just want to acknowledge the extensive engagement that's gone into this work, directly and indirectly, in terms of establishing the community's priorities, and getting an understanding of those key important issues, and also distilling key things out of our council plan process as well. And I just wanted to draw out a couple of key points in this strategy. Some of these things are not all big shiny things. Some of the things are quite major challenges that council is going to be faced with. Council is faced with right now, and that includes increased funding for local climate adaptation as well, place-based solutions. The great work that we've seen in relation to the naturalisation of Moonee Ponds Creek, and the funding that we're seeking for stage 2 there, as well as Steel Creek as well. The installation of batteries and additional solar on council-owned facilities, as well as efficiency upgrades and electrification. Thank you, Mayor. And funding to proactively manage extreme heat, and to continue advocate for legislative reform on social and affordable housing. Also just wanted to conclude by saying, importantly, it won't only be limited to advocacy that's in the strategy, so it does enable us to be nimble with emerging issues as well. So I really like this strategic document.
Yeah. Time is up. Would you like a brief
nimble
extension?
as well. Thanks, Mayor. No, thanks, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hamish Jones, I will offer you a right of reply if you'd like one. No, in which case I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thanks. That brings us to item 9.6, award the contract for the provision of street tree maintenance services, negotiation number 100100. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Fran Cosgrove. Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, there's 100,000, plus street trees in Moonee Valley. It's important that they're safely maintained, that they don't cause an issue for critical infrastructure, and also that the maintenance is done in a sound way for tree health. We all get a lot of inquiries with regards to street trees, this contract awards a contract to a panel of 6 contractors with a value of just over $3.3 million for 2 years. It's gone through a public tender process, and tenders were assessed against price, capability, capacity and impact. The recommended suppliers collectively provide the best overall value for council, demonstrating the capacity, the understanding of risk, compliance and delivery requirements. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Phil Byrne. Councillor Cosgrove, would you like to speak to the motion?
I didn't have anything additional to that, so no, thank you.
And thank you, Councillor Cosgrove. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. That brings us to item 9.7, Queen's Park Cafe lease. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Ava Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I will move the officer's recommendation, please.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Samantha Byrne. Councillor Ava Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you, Mayor. This motion is resolving to authorise the CEO to negotiate and execute the deed of lease for the Queen's Park Cafe. Council officers with a commercial agent have undertaken a very competitive EOI process to determine the most suitable tenant for the site and the commercial lease terms. The consensus of the thorough evaluation process by the panel was that the preferred candidate is the Dale and Moores Market Proprietary Limited. This cafe's been vacant since July 2024 due to much needed extensive repair works. Our community has been missing this adored cafe location. It is so popular with young families, being located next to the children's playground, which will be upgraded soon, so that's exciting, as well as our seniors community. So this is really welcomed news. It's one of the most frequent questions that I get asked. I'm sure that you do too, Mayor. So I'm really pleased that it will be opening as a bakery cafe soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Samantha Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, that I think that this is a really exciting step forward, and looking forward to having many catch-ups there, very conveniently located to the council chambers. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. That brings us to item 9.8, Delegations of Council Review 2026. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Adams.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Hamish Jones, thank you. Councillor Ava Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. This motion approves the instrument of delegation, which is a formal document that delegates Council's powers, duties and functions to the Chief Executive Officer and other positions for the operations of the Council to maintain efficiencies in service delivery. This allows the Council to use its formal meetings to deal with decision making on policy and strategic decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ava Adams. Councillor Hamish Jones, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's all those in favour, and that's carried unanimously. So I just didn't want to make a mistake again. That brings us to item 9.9, Audit and Risk Committee minutes of the 16th of March 2026 meeting and proposed 16th of March 2026 meeting and proposed amendment to committee charter. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Hamish Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor John Sypek. Councillor Hamish Jones, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, the Audit and Risk Committee is probably one of the quieter parts of our governance model as a council and the governance architecture, but it's also one of the most important in my personal opinion, and that's not just because I sit on the Audit and Risk Committee, it's because I think it does play an important role in making sure that we are managing risks as a council and getting the feedback that we need through that audit process as well. I support the receiving of these minutes as I sat in that meeting, and I feel that they are an accurate reflection of the meeting that occurred, and also endorse the revised charter to other members of council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamish Jones. Councillor John Sypek.
I think my esteemed colleague pretty much covered it all.
Thank you, Councillor John Sypek. And would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. And that brings us to item 9.10, which is the endorsement of the Extraordinary Community Support Grant. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Is there a motion? Councillor Adams. Yes, Councillor Adams. Sorry, the hands went up very, very closely. I just happened to see Councillor Adams. It's often very difficult to tell.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Samantha Byrne. Thank you. Councillor Ava Adams, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will, thank you, Mayor. Council has an extraordinary community support grant stream, which the Victorian SES Essendon unit has applied for following a break-in and robbery on the 25th of February 2026 at their unit in Aberfeldy that resulted in damage to the building and vehicles and theft of critical equipment. Vic SES Essendon unit is a volunteer-based organisation that delivers critical emergency response and community service activities to support the Moonee Valley community to prepare for, respond to and recover from emergencies. They respond to more than 400 requests for assistance each year across the municipality, so they do some really extraordinary work. They've applied for $45,000 to procure essential equipment that is needed for the upcoming high-risk weather season this winter and upgrade security measures at the facility, including CCTV with lighting, lockers for secure storage.
Sorry, if I can I've just noticed that the clock didn't start. I don't think
I'm
you're
nearly
at risk
done.
of...
That's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank
I'll
you.
be well within the time.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's okay. So that $45,000 has also been applied for an upgrade to security measures at the facility, including CCTV with lighting, lockers for secure storage of equipment. So the funding will cover the gap in insurance and ensures that the needs of the community during emergency events can be met. So I'm very happy to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ava Adams. Councillor Samantha Byrne.
Thank you, Mayor. The Vic SES Essendon unit, located in Aberfeldy, is a volunteer-based organisation that delivers critical emergency response and community service activities to support the Moonee Valley community to prepare for, respond to and recover from emergencies. They respond to more than 400 requests for assistance each year across the municipality. They also provide significant assistance to other agencies including Fire Rescue Victoria, Ambulance Victoria and Victoria Police through activities such as search and rescue, traffic management and scene preservation. On the 25th of February 2026, the unit experienced a break-in and robbery that resulted in damage to the building and vehicles and theft of critical equipment. We know that crime in this state is through the roof, but it really hit hard when it hit our local SES service. The Vic SES Essendon unit have applied for $45,000 to procure essential equipment that is needed for the upcoming high-risk weather season this winter and to upgrade security measures at the facility, including CCTV with the lighting, lockers for secure storage of equipment. I'm really glad that we have a grants process that can help us accommodate this, but I also think that it's incredibly sad that our ratepayer dollars have to go to something like this because crime is just that bad in this state at the moment. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Was there any other councillor? Councillor Hamish Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, without repeating too much what my esteemed colleagues have said, I just wanted to acknowledge the SES volunteers themselves. I wanted to thank those that do put on the SES uniform for giving their time freely so the rest of us can live safely. I think that this extraordinary community support grant is the least we can do as a council. When something goes wrong with their facility, I think we need to move quickly to support them when we have options like this where we can, especially as we... I think the timing is incredibly important as we move into a high-risk weather season to make sure that the SES unit is equipped to continue to support the community in the way that they have and will continue to do so in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamish Jones. Councillor John Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been trying to find a team that I can support because the football teams I do support aren't going that flash. And the SES are a great team to support. I've been down there several times. It's an amazing setup that they've got. It is a shame that it got broken into and robbed. They don't get a lot of funding from the state government, and I'm pretty sure, I won't say the figure, but it's very, very, very minimal. And if you looked it up, you'd probably be quite shocked. And that $45,000 is going to go a long way for what I've seen they've got down there. So this is fantastic, and I endorse the officer's recommendation. It'll go to a very good community support grant guidelines, and it's great to see the Vic SES and Essendon be the recipient of it because they need it badly. And I do like them fondly. I've seen them train. You wouldn't catch me doing some of that stuff. They carry instruments and run and walk and push-ups and sit-ups and dips and carry chainsaws and logs and not for me, unfortunately, so I take my hat off to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John Barnes. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case, I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is your hand up there, Councillor John Barnes? Thank you. All those, so that is carried unanimously. And I just wanted to note that the 20th of May is WOW Day, Wear Orange Wednesday, which is a good occasion for us to acknowledge and celebrate and thank the SES volunteers. Thank you to officers for quickly finding the date of that. So it's the 20th of May. Now, councillors, that brings us to notices of motion, and we have none listed on tonight's agenda. So we move to item 11, which is urgent business. Do we have any urgent business this evening? There being no urgent business, That brings us to item 12, which is confidential items. And we have 5 confidential items listed on the agenda this evening. So we have a motion on the screen to close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020, so that council can consider the confidential items, which are 12.1, appointment of Audit and Risk Committee independent members, 12.2, 2026 Moonee Valley Neighbourhood Spirit Awards, 12.3 Property Matter Moonee Ponds, 12.4 Property Matter Essendon, and 12.5 Sport Infrastructure Update. So is there a mover amongst the councillors? Councillor Phil Byrne.
Happy to move the recommendation on the screen.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Fran Cosgriff. Councillor Phil Byrne, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Fran Cosgriff, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? The motion is on the screen, Councillor Samantha Byrne. Sorry, it is the motion is to close the meeting. I'm just wondering, governance, do you mind just scroll? Yes, thank you. That council resolves to close the meeting to the public pursuant to, so just what I read earlier. Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? In which case I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. That being the case, this is where we say good night to those watching the meeting via live stream. And the next council meeting will be held on Tuesday the 26th of May 2026. So I'll close this meeting at 8:13 p.m. and look forward to seeing you on the 26th of May 2026. Thank you and good night.